Ethan Kane was once a man of power, influence, and wealth. A self-made entrepreneur, he had built a real estate empire from scratch. Money flowed effortlessly, luxury cars lined his driveway, and his wife, Vanessa, enjoyed the spoils of his success. Then it all crumbled. A trusted business partner, Richard Langston, siphoned millions from their shared company, leaving Ethan legally and financially exposed. The market crash did the rest, wiping out his investments overnight. With debts piling up and lawsuits draining his resources, the loan sharks he had borrowed from came to collect. But they weren't businessmen, they were vultures. They stripped him of his mansion, seized his vehicles, and emptied his accounts. The final blow came from Vanessa. Instead of standing by him, she filed for divorce and took half of what was left, leaving him with nothing but the clothes on his back. Ethan Kane, once a name that commanded respect, was now just another ghost in the city, sleeping under bridges and searching trash bins for scraps. Life on the streets was merciless. Ethan learned quickly, people don't look you in the eye when you're homeless. You become invisible. The same men who used to shake his hand in boardrooms now walked past him without a glance. The nights were cold, the hunger unbearable, and the shame suffocating. Every day, he searched for anything he could sell: scrap metal, old electronics, even discarded fast food cups that could be exchanged for a few cents. But the worst part wasn't the hunger. It was the silence. The absence of his old life. The realization that no one cared. Then, one evening, in the city's largest landfill, everything changed. Ethan had scavenged this dump before, but tonight was different. He was digging through broken appliances when his hands brushed against something unusual. A black leather duffel bag. It was heavier than it should be. His heartbeat quickened as he unzipped it. Money. Bundles of crisp $100 bills, stacked neatly, wrapped with paper bands. There had to be millions inside. His mind raced. Whose money was this? No one leaves a fortune in the trash. This wasn't lost, it was dumped. And if it was dumped, someone wanted it to disappear. He had two choices: walk away or take it. For the first time in months, he felt something stir in him. Hope. Without a second thought, he zipped up the bag, threw it over his shoulder, and disappeared into the night. Ethan didn't celebrate. He didn't go on a spending spree. He knew better. First, he paid off his debts. The loan sharks who had once taken everything from him were surprised when he walked in with a briefcase full of cash. No words, no explanations, just payment. The debt was settled, and with it, their interest in him ended. But Ethan wasn't done. He used another portion of the money to secure a modest apartment, new clothes, and a fresh start. This time, he wouldn't waste his second chance. But peace never lasts. A week later, Ethan noticed something strange. A black SUV parked near his apartment. The same car followed him when he went to buy groceries. Someone was watching him. And then the first warning came. A brick crashed through his window in the middle of the night. Taped to it was a note: "That money isn't yours. We're coming." Ethan needed answers. After careful investigation, he discovered the truth. His bag of money belonged to Ivan Greco, a ruthless crime boss known for laundering money through underground channels. The bag was meant to be destroyed, part of a money laundering scheme gone wrong. But somehow, it ended up in Ethan's hands. Now, Ivan's men were hunting him, and they didn't care about explanations. They wanted their money back, or his life. Ethan faced a dilemma. He could run, but they would find him. He could give the money back, but that wouldn't guarantee his safety. Instead, he decided to fight back. With the remaining cash, he hired a private investigator, gathered intel on Ivan's operations, and found a weakness in his empire. If Ivan wanted his money, Ethan would make him an offer he couldn't refuse. In a high-stakes meeting, Ethan confronted Ivan. He proposed a deal: return part of the money in exchange for his safety and a way out of the criminal world. At first, Ivan laughed. But when Ethan revealed what he had uncovered evidence of Ivan's money laundering that could bring down his entire network, the laughter stopped. Reluctantly, Ivan agreed. Ethan walked away alive, with just enough money to start over. Ethan left the city behind. With a clean slate, he moved to a new town and started a business from the ground up. Not real estate this time, something honest. Something unshakable. He was no longer the man who lost everything. He was the man who fought to get it back. Ethan thought he was free. A new city, a legitimate business, and no more looking over his shoulder. But the past has a way of catching up. One evening, as he closed his small cafe, his first real business since losing everything, he spotted a familiar face in the crowd. Richard Langston. The man who had betrayed him. Richard was wealthier than ever, sipping whiskey on a rooftop bar across the street. It was as if nothing had ever happened. Rage burned in Ethan's chest. Richard had stolen from him, ruined his life, and walked away without consequences. Ethan clenched his fists. Maybe it was time for justice. Ethan started digging. Richard's company, Langston Enterprises, had expanded into offshore investments, government contracts, and illegal financial dealings. Ethan knew corruption when he saw it. He wasn't just after revenge, he wanted to take Richard down. But there was one problem. Richard had powerful allies. Among them, Vanessa, Ethan's ex-wife. Ethan hadn't seen Vanessa in over a year, but when she walked into his cafe, she looked the same, elegant, confident, dangerous. She wasn't here for coffee. Richard knows you're looking into him, she said, crossing her arms. You need to stop. Ethan smirked. Afraid I'll ruin your lavish new life? Vanessa sighed. Listen to me. Richard isn't the real threat. He has protection. If you push too hard, they'll come for you. Ethan narrowed his eyes. Who are they? She hesitated. Then, in a whisper, she said, Ivan Greco. Ethan's stomach turned to ice. Ivan Greco, the crime boss whose money Ethan had taken, was still lurking in the shadows. Only now, he wasn't just after Ethan. He was working with Richard. The money Ethan had borrowed had only been a small part of Ivan's empire. Richard and Ivan had formed an alliance, funneling millions through offshore accounts. And Ethan? He was now a loose end. One night, Ethan was ambushed. Masked men jumped him outside his cafe, shoving him into a black SUV. When the bag was pulled off his head, he was face to face with Ivan Greco and Richard Langston. Richard leaned in, grinning. I told you to stay out of my business. Ethan glared. You stole from me. You ruined my life. Ivan chuckled. And yet here you are. Still breathing, for now. Richard crossed his arms. I could harm you, but that's too easy. I have a better idea. Ivan slid a folder across the table. Inside? A contract. They wanted Ethan to launder money for them. Ethan had two choices. 1. Refuse and die. 2. Sign the contract and become part of their criminal empire. But Ethan had learned from his mistakes. He didn't rush. He signed the contract, but not before adding a small detail, a hidden clause that gave him a backdoor out. Now, he wasn't just playing their game. He was setting them up. Ethan contacted an old friend, James Calloway, an ex-FBI agent who had gone rogue after exposing political corruption. James owed Ethan a favor. Together they built a plan, bring down Richard and Ivan in one move. Ethan would act as a loyal partner, collecting evidence from within their operation. Then, when the time was right, they would leak everything. For months, Ethan worked as Richard's new financial consultant, laundering millions through secret accounts. But something was off. Richard was nervous. And then, Ethan discovered why. Richard was planning to betray Ivan. The offshore accounts? They weren't just laundering money. Richard was siphoning millions behind Ivan's back. Ethan had stumbled onto something bigger than he imagined. If he played this right, he could take them both down. Ethan secretly leaked Richard's stolen money trail to Ivan's network. Within days, Ivan's men turned on Richard. Richard panicked. He called Ethan. "We need to run." "Ivan knows." Ethan smirked. "Not my problem." Richard screamed over the phone, "I swear, Ethan, if I go down, bang." Silence. Richard Langston was dead. And now, Ivan had no reason to come after Ethan. With Richard gone, Ethan thought it was over. Then, one night, his doorbell rang. It was Vanessa. She looked terrified. "Ivan won't stop. He's coming for you next." Ethan frowned. "Why?" "Richard's dead." Vanessa swallowed hard. "Because I stole from him." Ethan's heart sank. She had taken the last of Ivan's money. And now? They were both targets. There was no running. No hiding. Ethan had one move left, a final trade. Using James's FBI contacts, Ethan cut a deal. He delivered every piece of evidence on Ivan's empire, in exchange for full immunity and protection. The authorities moved fast. Within a week, Ivan Greco was arrested. The empire collapsed. And Ethan? For the first time in years, he was truly free. Ethan left the city with Vanessa, heading for a new life. The cafe was gone, the business left behind. But he had something greater, a future. He wasn't the man who lost everything. He was the man who survived. And no one would ever take that away from him again. Ethan and Vanessa had left the city behind, but peace was short-lived. One evening, as they checked into a secluded lodge in the mountains, Vanessa's phone buzzed. A text message. "You think Ivan was the only one? You have no idea what you've started." Attached was a photo of Ethan and Vanessa, taken just hours ago. Someone was still watching them. And whoever it was, they weren't done yet. Ethan traced the message back to an encrypted account, one connected to an unknown criminal syndicate. Someone had stepped into Ivan Greco's place. Someone even more dangerous. Their name? Gabriel Navarro. A mercenary turned crime lord, Navarro had once worked for international arms dealers, and he had just taken control of what was left of Ivan's empire. And now, he was after Ethan and Vanessa. Ethan knew they had to disappear permanently, but Navarro had resources that stretched across multiple countries. Running wasn't an option. They needed a way to end this for good. Vanessa hesitated. "You mean, go after him?" Ethan's eyes hardened. "Yes. Before he comes after us." Ethan couldn't do this alone. He called in James Calloway, his ex-FBI friend, and two old allies, Dante Cruz, a former Special Forces operative turned security expert, Mara Sloan, an underground hacker with access to classified intel. Their plan? Take down Navarro before he could consolidate power. But they had less than a week before he made his move. Time was running out. Navarro had one major weakness: a secret vault hidden inside a heavily guarded penthouse in Dubai. Inside? Enough evidence to expose every crime he had ever committed. Their mission: break in, steal the files, and leak everything. The risk? If they failed, Navarro would hunt them to the ends of the earth. Failure wasn't an option. Hashtag Chapter 26, Infiltration. Dante posed as a VIP client, gaining access to the penthouse's underground garage. Mira disabled security cameras, while Ethan and Vanessa infiltrated through the rooftop, using high-tech climbing gear. Everything was going smoothly, until the alarms triggered. Navarro's men swarmed the building. The mission had turned into a fight for survival. Bullets ripped through the air as Ethan and Vanessa sprinted across the rooftop. Navarro himself appeared, a cold smirk on his face. "You really thought you could rob me?" Ethan didn't answer. He just fired. A brutal rooftop fight erupted, fists, knives, and gunfire. Vanessa took out Navarro's sniper, while Dante covered their escape. Ethan and Navarro fought hand to hand, both refusing to give up. Then a final gunshot, Navarro fell. The files were secured. It was over. With Navarro's empire dismantled, Ethan and Vanessa were finally free. For the first time in years, Ethan could breathe. No more enemies. No more running. Vanessa took his hand. What now? Ethan looked at her and smiled. We start over. Together, no more crime. No more betrayal. Just peace, love, and a second chance at life. And as they watched the sunset over the horizon, Ethan knew he had finally won.